Our speaker this morning is Emma Gray. Emma is a 2-year boarding student from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. She's a member of the varsity girls water polo and lacrosse teams, and made sure I got this right, plays girls V2 puck. She's the proud roommate of Rachel Mayer. Emma.
I'd like to tell you a little bit about Ida Biesecker and a little bit more about compassion. Ida was my great-grandmother who was born in 1913, a year after the fateful voyage of the Titanic. Grammy B, as my sisters and I called her, grew up in a tiny area nestled in the hills of central Pennsylvania. She was tough and competitive. She played on a boys' baseball team when she was a teen. When we asked her what position she played, fully expecting because of the times for her response to be, "Oh, I didn't actually get in games," she scoffed and told us she was the team's starting shortstop, with an extra emphasis on the word starting. Grammy B began playing golf at the age of 50 after my great-grandfather died, and played for the next 50 years. She remarried, opened a diner with her second husband, and worked there as a hostess for years. She stayed on after the sale of the diner to a family member and the death of her second husband. This carried Grammy B well into her 90s. In addition to both her husbands dying, her 2 sons, my grandfather and great uncle, both passed away in their 50s. Still, Grammy B soldiered on and had a robust social life. She golfed in a ladies' league, did puzzles, and played card games with friends, came to our sports game and watched sports teams every night. She used to say that she watched the Phillies to see them win and the Yankees to see them lose. Needless to say, Grammy B was very special to me. She moved into an independent living facility closer to us, where she met with her hallmates daily to chat and attend social events, dressed up as a witch for Halloween, and another time danced with an Elvis impersonator who had come to the facility to take residents on a trip back to younger years for a little while. But by now, Grammy B was 102 years old, and she began to have health issues. Against her wishes, she moved to a nursing home where she would have a higher level of healthcare and monitoring. Giving up her independence was tough for Grammy B, and her mood changed. She wanted to get back to the manor, as she called her independent living facility. Family visited often and saw her deteriorating physically and cognitively. It was hard to see, although she was only about 5 feet tall at this point. Grammy B was always larger than life in our eyes. There was a bright spot for her and for us, a nurse's aide. I don't remember his name, and I only met him 2 or 3 times, but I will never forget him. He was a middle-aged man from the Bahamas. He treated Grammy B with respect, listened to her complain about being there and the quality of the food, and was firm and encouraging with her during her therapy sessions of hopes of her achieving her ultimate goal of discharge. They shared of love of gardening, and he told her about the delicious peppers he grew. They were an odd couple, to be sure, but they developed a strong connection. And while there wasn't a chance that Grammy B would leave the nursing home, his compassion for her kept her working toward that goal. After several weeks on his unit, Grammy B was moved upstairs, where patients essentially went as their final destination. Grammy B was only there several days before she died. I wasn't there to see this, but the image of it is vivid in my mind. My dad told me that word spread that Grammy B had passed away. Several family members were in her room when the aide came in and asked for permission to pray over her. Of course, they said yes. He knelt beside her body, placed his hands on hers, and prayed until he wept. He wept for a while and hugged the family members. She mattered deeply to him, just as she had to us. He cared deeply for her, just as we had. He and other employees had to go through this scenario relatively frequently. Time does not reverse itself, but it was an incredible, raw, genuine display of compassion, and I will never forget the impact he had on her life and on our family. His example is one of the primary reasons I choose to work with the elderly at an independent living facility. On the surface level, my job is to serve the elderly their meals. There is, of course, much more to it. Here are some of the things I've learned about compassion from them. Growing up, I was always taught to respect my elders, but I never realized how much respect means to them. They see it as reciprocal and will give you respect in return. The same is true for manners. Older individuals often feel invisible and misunderstood. People tend to not think about them and what they are experiencing. They love to talk, and I love hearing about their stories and some of their fun memories. They provide so much wisdom and great advice. You just have to listen. They've been through hardship and great times, and they're willing to teach you and guide you just to ask. Mental health also impacts moods. A handful of our residents have dementia, which is hard for them to understand. I learned to be patient because it's hard on them as well. It's not their fault, and if they are upset, I just talk to them and help them understand what they need. They miss their families, and many have very fond memories of growing up or being parents, and that is why they might treat you like family. Working with this community is so rewarding. They love to be included. For example, they get excited to see pictures of what I wear to school and what my school looks like. I'll say they love to see TikTok dances, and some are even willing to participate in making some. Not everyone is willing to engage, and that's okay. Everyone is their own person, and for various reasons, they might not be comfortable being social. My daily conversations with residents are so much more than what I expected when I was being hired. I took on the role of making sure everyone is good physically and mentally. I did this because of how much they mean to me. I never want to see a resident feeling down. If I do, I make sure to go talk to them and help them out. It is important to ask them how they are because it makes them feel valued and that they matter to you. Listen to them, and if you have time, sit with them. They love to just talk, and it can help bring back so many happy memories, and they have great stories to tell. I've been working there since I was 15, November in 2018. I basically grew up and matured while working there. Over my time working, I got to know all of our residents, and since I work often, I got to know them as individuals. I learned how they were raised and a lot about their lives. Once COVID hit in 2020, the building went on lockdown to protect them and their health. That meant family visits were limited and they could not go out to public settings. Staff were the only people who were able to come into and out of the building. This meant they leaned on the staff for support. As a staff, we were there to serve them their food, but also there for a person they could talk to and express how they were feeling. The limitations got progressively harder on our residents. They became lonely and depressed. I personally felt for them and talked to them about their issues and supported them in any way I could. They lived vicariously through us as we would give them information about what was going on in the world outside their window. We went on walks around the building, did puzzles, and played games. I'd pick up food for them from their favorite restaurants. My colleagues and I also bought and set up a freshwater fish tank for them to help brighten their day. Before working with the elderly community, I never realized how much of an impact they can have on my life. They changed my life in so many ways. They taught me so many things. For example, some of the things that I have learned from the residents were how to drive in the snow. One of our residents was a taxi driver, and while I was working an all-day shift, we got a big snowstorm. It was my first time driving in conditions like these. She sat me down and explained how to take my turns and what to do if the back end fishtails. I also learned how to play bocce because they needed an extra player so they could play a full game. I even learned how to toast a bagel the correct way. It took a couple tries, but I got it. Because of my experiences with Grammy B, I view my job through several different lenses: the residents, their families, the staff, and as a friend. Unfortunately, our time together is sometimes short, which does hit me hard. In some cases, I attend viewings, write to the family to let them know how special the resident was, and tell a story or two about them. Although I'm not getting rich from this job, the rewards are countless. I often say that I'm lucky to have 100 grandparents. I know my job is unique in that not all of you get to do what I do, but you do have grandparents and great-grandparents, great aunts and uncles, and even neighbors and family friends who are elderly. And just like the people I work with, these people share a life worth of stories and wisdom with us. The key to accessing this treasure, as I learned from Grammy B's amazing nurses aide, is to care about them while you're caring for them. Thank you.